When it comes to video conferencing or online meetings, video meetings, things like that, there's lots of different solutions out there. When it comes to video meetings or bigger scale operations like webinars, GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar has been the kind of de facto standard. There's lots of different options out there. Some of them are paid for, some of them are free, some of them are pretty good, some of them are not so good. GoToWebinar, GoToMeeting, the Citrix offering is probably one of the best on the market. It can certainly deal with a large number of people. Sometimes you don't need a large number of people, though. You just need a small number for a kind of video conference or something like that. GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar is fairly expensive. It's $97 for up to 100 visitors. Not so good if you want to do it yourself. Another one that's I discovered a couple of years ago, it's got more mature, is called join.me. That's a free thing, and that works pretty well. I've tried it, it's not bad at all. Again, you're dependent upon their servers to run it. One that's been used quite a lot over the last couple of years is Google Plus, Google Hangouts, and Google Hangouts on the air. The nice thing about this particular offering is that it immediately gets put onto YouTube. YouTube has its version of it, which is YouTube Live. It's virtually the same thing, and that works pretty well. Two of the problems that I see is that it is dependent upon their servers, and if you've got a number of different people joining you, it's limited to about 15 before it crashes out. And you've also got quite a lag. It's a technical thing. I mean, they've implemented something called WebRTC, but I think their implementation of it can be a little bit leaves a bit to be desired, to say the least. So it's a good offering. There's a number of other commercial offerings as well out there, which actually utilize Google Hangouts on air. They act, as it were, as front ends, and some of them are quite nice but awfully expensive. One of them's $297 a year, $297 a year, which is awful. Now, one that I've come across and one that I want to talk about today is Jitsi. Jitsi was originally a kind of something for your cell phone, your mobile, your smartphone, where you can have video conferences on there. But they've got something now called Jitsi Meet. And it's great. Instant video conferences. Rather than webinars, they're video conferences, but you could use them as a webinar. It's 100% open source. They give away all of the code, which is great. It's encrypted by default. HD audio, you don't need an account. You can use presentations and desktop sharing, certainly desktop sharing in their hosted one, integrated chat, and invite by pretty URLs. Let's have a quick look at it, and we will come back later. And here you go. You don't need to sign up for anything. It's you just type in the name of a room. Let's call it 12345 Tom. 12345 Tom, and we'll hit go. It wants to use my microphone, share, and it wants to my camera. Yep. And there you go, I'm online. If I want to change any of those things, the settings are down here. So there's your basic Jitsi Meet, and if you have other people joining you, they'll be along the bottom there. The great thing about it, because it is open source, you can take the code and put it on your own server, so you're not restricted to theirs. This makes a great offering. Let me show you how it's done. So we now need to be thinking about where we are going to install this. Now you could install it on your desktop at home there, but I would advise against it for the following two reasons. Firstly, the line coming into your building from the outside world is probably what's called an ADSL line, which is asymmetric digital subscriber line. By asymmetric, I mean that you get a faster download speed than upload speed. It's asymmetric. The reason why they were designed this way is they can get more bang for their buck, of course, but also they expect more people to download than to upload. But because we're uploading video, you're going to need some bandwidth. It's not as bad as some video products where the whole composite video of everyone is streaming all over the place. The technology here with WebRTC is they break it up into far smaller packets, so it's much more effective. But still, it's best not on desktop. The other reason, the second reason, is what's called port forwarding, and that if you want to use it on your desktop, you need to play around with the router in your home or in your office, so that certain ports coming in, for example port 80 and one or two other ports, and then a large number of what's called UDP ports, need to be forwarded from your routers to your computer. Most of the time calls coming in don't arrive at your computer, so that's a lot of faffing about and messing around. You don't need to do that. The best thing to do, and the way in which I recommend, is to buy yourself, rent yourself a very, very small Debian, that's a flavor of Linux, Debian computer. Let me show you how I've done it. Now if you go to meet.jit.si, you'll go to Jitsi meet Jitsi there. And this is what we're going to emulate. This is what we're going to do. This is open source software, and that's the reason why we're going to go for it. You essentially type in at this point here the name of the video room that you're going to be using. So there's not a lot of programming around or anything like that. You'll just, I'm going to give it a room of Jackie Fred. What's wrong with that? Jackie Fred. Let's put it in lowercase maybe. Jackie Fred. And say go. Now it wants to use my camera and microphone, so I'm going to say allow, and my camera hasn't come up, so I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to go to the FaceTime camera, and I'm going to go to the Plantronics headset. And there we go. There's me up in this Jitsi room there. We are going to actually install the software on a server of our own with our own domain name. And software's free. Good stuff. So stand by. Now you can find Debian servers all over the place, but for our purposes, I've gone to digitalocean.com. You can get your server up and running in about 55 seconds from their point of view. There's a bit more work to do, obviously. They call them droplets rather than virtual servers. Groovy name and all that. You will need to sign up, and you will need to fund it with at least $5. I use PayPal. Now I'm going to log in because I've already signed up, and I'm going to put my email address there, and I'm going to put my password. Now it says I don't have any droplets. Obviously I've got nothing there at the moment, so I'm going to say create droplet, and you'll see a number of different flavors of Linux. I want the Debian one, and there are a number of versions of Debian. We just want the top one, which is Debian 8.5 and the 64-bit one, and you want to choose a size, and quite frankly the $5 a month one is quite sufficient. It has 512 megabytes, just one CPU, 20 gigabyte disk, and a terabyte of transfer. That's more than enough. I'm going to put it in London, which is the nearest to me. I don't want any additional options. I don't want any SSH keys. I only want one droplet, and that host name is quite sufficient. We can do what we want, and we'll say create. It'll go away and do its stuff. You count up to 55 seconds till it's created. It'd be very interesting to put a stopwatch on it, but it's coming together. And Bob's your uncle. And it gives us an IP address here, which I'm going to come back to because we'll need to copy that. The next thing I want to do is that dear old DigitalOcean will email me with the details, particularly the root password, and we'll need to get that. So bear with me while we go and get that. And here's the information in my email there, and here's the phone. I'm just going to copy that information and stick it in my Word document for now, so I can get onto that a bit later, and I will need that information. Let's increase the size of it. With my poor eyes I can't see a thing. Anno Domini, my dears. So we'll go back here. Now there are a number of options under this more thing. You can add a domain, access console, resize droplet, view usage, enable backups, or destroy the whole thing. The next thing I'm going to do is to add my domain. Now I've purchased a domain called webinarrapid.info, which will do us for now. Now we put the name of the webinarrapid.info. You can choose which of your droplets to put it on. Well, this is the only one we've got, and then we click on create record there. We know the IPs there. That's all you need to do. You don't need to do anything else at all. If you're into DNS settings, you might want to add some more A records for mail, but you don't need it, not for this particular purpose. That's all okay. Note the names of the domain servers for the name records: NS1 DigitalOcean, NS2 DigitalOcean, NS3 DigitalOcean, and we do need to configure the domain at our registrar. I'm going to pop across to do that now, and here is my here's the domain details here. I'm actually going to change the name servers, I'm going to custom, enter the custom name servers. We go ns1 dot digitalocean.com, ns2 dot digitalocean.com. I want to add a name server, ns3.digit digitalocean.com, and we say OK. It will go away and check those, validating them. They're all OK. Save them away, and that's it. That will take, they say it could take up to 24-48 hours, but it doesn't. It takes about 10 minutes, if that. Let's go back to our site here. That's fine. We don't need to have anything else there. So let's go back to our droplets, and here we go here. So we've added the domain. We now want to access the console, which essentially gives us an SSH session in, or a telnet session in. We go straight in there as root. Now you could use another program on your computer, for example PuTTY on a Windows machine, or the regular terminal on a Mac. But while we've got the console here, we can do that. So here it is. It's black on white, blah. Let's pull this over a bit so we can do the thing. We'll log in then as root. Oh no, misspelt it. Just a second, it will come back again. Right, ROOT, root, and the password here is, let me just pull this over and then we can probably see the whole shooting match, which is 49 B8 562 CC0 E384AD. Yay! Now it wants us to change the password immediately. So what's the current one? 49B8562 CC0 E384AD. What's the new password? I'm not going to tell you that. And there you go. We've now logged in as root. Now let me say, at this stage there is virtually nothing on there. Nothing on this server. There's no web server. There's nothing there. So what we do, we need to configure this. So there's a few things. Now at the moment there's only one user on here. Just one, and that's root. And it's good to put another user on there, because we don't always want to log in as root. We might want to give the new user some root privileges, but we don't really want to use the actual root all the time. So I'm going to type add user Leonard. Why not? Right, we'll enter the new password. And then it asks you for details. You don't need to put any of this garbage at all. Yes, it is. And then we're back there at root. Now, the next thing we need to do is just to update all of the basic software that's on there, the Debian. So let's get an update. clear the screen. The next thing we're going to do is to install sudo. Now sudo is a program that will enable Leonard, the user, to get some root style privileges. So we say apt get install sudo, and then we're going to modify the user Leonard so that he can actually use sudo. So we go user mod -a uppercase G sudo Leonard. So that is now done. So that's your basics out of the way. The next thing we're going to do is to do the basic Jitsi Meet install. So each night there is an update of Jitsi Meet, and it's good for us to make sure that each night it does install. So here's a command, echo. By the way, I shall be putting all these commands in writing. Open quotation mark single deb http:// download jitsi.org/nightly/deb space unstable. You're probably wondering why I actually get the unstable version. Well, each night there's a new version, not every night, but essentially, you know, the latest issue is put there even if it's unstable, and you really do want the latest one. And then write that to the file etc apt sources .list, and that's done. We're now going to go and get the actual software itself. So we wget qo, that's O not 0, dash space https://download jitsi.org/nightly-deb unstable archive key, pipe it to apt key add hyphen. Whoa, so that's done. We now want to update the package list. So apt get update. So that's done. And now we install Jitsi Meet, and it's going to ask one or two questions. apt-get and y install Jitsi Meet. It wants to know the DNS host name, basically what is the domain we're going to be using. And you'll recall it was webinar, sorry, go back a bit, make sure we're typing in webinar rapid.info. Now this is where it gets a little bit complex. They talk here about an SSL certificate. You know, when you go to one of those websites, HTTPS, well, does it have a certificate? And sometimes you get across sites that says, don't like the look of this one. Now, if you have or have purchased an SSL certificate, then you will need to install it on this server. And this video, this training doesn't include items on SSL. We're going to actually put a self-signed certificate, which means that people need to say, yeah, I will accept that for what it is. So self-signed, and it goes away and does its job. I sometimes think that Linux, with all of its commands, really suffers from verbal diarrhea at times, but hey ho. And that is it installed for now. I don't think you need to do anything else at all. So in a moment we're going to actually open up a conference and see where we go. Now for this purpose, Google Chrome, the Chrome browser, or Chromium if going back to the old days, are probably the best browsers to use. The nice thing about this software is you don't need to download any plugins or add-ons. It just takes place inside the context of the browser. Firefox can do it, but I'm not sure about its implementation of RTC, whereas Chrome does. So we'll go to webinarrapid.info, and the first thing it will say, your connection is not private. You will recall a moment ago my comments about an SSL certificate. You're actually going to go to Advanced and proceed to the website. If you are using something like if you are using Firefox, then you can make a permanent exception to the rule. And here you are. This is the software. It's actually, rather than on Jitsi, it's on my website. It's on you can have this yourself. Now inside the website you'll find the all kinds of things there. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Let's go back there. You can look inside the structure of the website for these graphics, and you can do something with it here as well. I'm going to call my video room, Bert, and say go. The first thing it's got to ask is, can it use my camera and microphone? I will say allow. And you want to go to settings, want to go to your real camera and select the microphone, which in this case is the Plantronics headset. And here we are, up and working. Now sometimes I've noticed on PCs it doesn't quite get the camera, and it's look at your camera settings, that's all I can say, except that if you actually go to the Jitsi site itself and go into one of their video rooms, it seems to take, and once it's taken, it's taken. There are a number of options up here. You can mute or unmute the microphone, you can start and stop the camera, you can lock or unlock the room, you can invite others, you can have a chat session. There's the chat. You can share a YouTube video. Just click on that and it'll ask you for the which is useful. Share screen. doesn't work. That's a big downside. It needs a kind of a bit of programming and add-on, which would be, it's not just a simple add-on, it changes depending upon the site. So it's a shame you can't share your screen. But if you're actually trying to explain something to someone, then create a YouTube video of it and then bring it in later, and then you can exit full screen. Let's exit full screen, and then we're back there again, and all of your other people will come along the bottom here. I haven't tested this to the maximum. I've seen it working for about 20 people, which is, fun enough, far more than Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts will crash out at about 15, but this is far better. So you have your own software on your own video room. Any questions? Send me an email and we'll try and help you. All the best, and do enjoy.